Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, December 29th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Dan Rubin. 2 days and counting, my friend. 2 days and counting. And Ohio State enters this game very healthy. They came out with an injury report last night, which is now mandated by the CFP. First year they've done that. Tegra is actually listed as doubtful, even though Ryan Day said he's not going to play in the game. Maybe something's changed, but Tegra is doubtful. Guys that are out for Ohio State, it's not a long list. Quincy Porter is the most notable, but he's been hurt for a while. Logan George has been hurt for a while. Malik Hartford. So those are the guys that are out for Ohio State. Miami has one of their starting corners out, sophomore. So Ohio State enters this game very healthy. I like that a lot, Dan Rubin.
Yeah, we're going to get Ohio State's best punch. We've been talking ad nauseum about this matchup since it got going. We'll get into the fact that there's many out there who think Miami is a formidable, legit opponent for Ohio State with a real chance to beat them. But look, they're coming off. Ohio State's coming off a loss. It's not like last year where that loss made us question our character and our place on the earth. But I do think there is reason to question whether or not Indiana took Ohio State's best punch and how that will affect, this game and what Ohio State team we will see. I don't think we're going to see the team against Indiana. I do think there was, what do you want to call them, extenuating circumstances. But we've seen this movie once, and it is healthy Ohio State with a chip on its shoulder. And you can ask anybody from Tennessee that likes to go shirtless in the cold how they feel about that.
I was just going to say, man, you took the words right out of my mouth. It reminds me so much of Tennessee last year. Now, I wish the game was at the Horseshoe, but we'll take it at Jerry World. But mostly had good luck there.
It is snowing right now, though, I might add.
It's funny, Ryan Day has been there so many times. Like his first bowl game, when he was his first year at Ohio State as an assistant coach, was the Cotton Bowl against USC. Then when he was a head coach, the interim head coach, they played TCU down there. We won't mention the Cotton Bowl when Lincoln Keenholz had to play as a true freshman because Ohio State had their not even their JV team. It'd be like their freshman team going down there to play Missouri. But overall, Jerry World's been very good to us. Last year, ask Jack Sawyer how it was. It's pretty good. So, but yeah, it reminds me so much of last year. Media chirping. I filled in on a show on 97.1 on Friday, Rothman and Ice, and there was a national college football reporter. I'd never heard of the guy. It seems like a nice guy. It was all I could do not to get in an argument on the air. I'm like, it's not my show. I'm not going to do it. But this guy was like, Miami is clearly better on both sides of the line. I'm like, okay, we'll see. And he was so focused on what happened against Indiana. And I'm thinking, that was not – if you want to think that that's the real Ohio State, go for it. Go for it. Because that was an Ohio State team that was distracted, wasn't motivated, just came off the Michigan win. They didn't care. Saying they don't care is probably strong. All he was focused on was the Indiana game. Talking about Ohio State, they can't pass protect. I'm thinking they gave up 6 sacks all year before that game. Yeah, that if you just look at that one game, it looks like they have a bad offensive line. And then he was going on and on about Julian Sand, very turnover prone. I'm like, dude, he's thrown 6 interceptions all year. He's just focused on what happened against Indiana. And then he starts talking about Miami, and he just glosses over the fact that they lost to Louisville and SMU. He's like, started the year real good. Ended it real good. Yeah, they had a little bit of a speed bump there. I'm like, losing to a bad Louisville team is not a speed bump. You're going to focus on Ohio State losing by 3 to Indiana? Anyway, I don't want to pick on this guy. I can't remember his name. But he's not the only one. You have a lot of national media doing this, just like last year with Tennessee. Fan base, Miami's fans, all 20 of those dudes are chirping. And I love it. Like you said, Ohio State's motivated. They're healthy. They're pissed off. Let's go.
You brought up a good point there, and that it seems like the national media and Josh Pate's getting some interest. Just he's a big deal, and because he in his show last night he pulled up a tweet from the one and only Jay Book. I think he was saying Jay Book had kind of a straw man argument that everyone's heard so much about Miami, yada yada. I have actually heard it.
That's not a straw man at all.
And Pate said out loud he thought that Miami's offensive line is better than Ohio State's offensive line, and Miami's defensive line is better than Ohio State's defensive line. Trivia. Of the 4 defensive ends starting in this game, Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry for us, and then Reuben Bain, and pronounce the guy's last name for me. It's got a Z in it.
Yeah, I know who you mean, though. He's another big guy. Yeah.
Mesidor, Akeem Mesidor, maybe?
Mesidor, yes. Mesidor.
I have trouble.
He's about the same size as
sacks?
They have a good offensive line.
They're good. No, time out. Their defensive line is good. I'm not saying they're bad.
Right.
But those guys had 8.5 and 7.5 sacks. Caden Curry had 11 sacks. And I don't hear anybody in Miami being like, oh, no, Caden Curry's coming. Yes, Texas A&M struggled to block. But that game was a kind of a debacle if you really watched the entire game. How someone could be super confident about Miami in a game that it was like played in a wind tunnel, and it was a weird game. I don't understand why you would gain confidence from that. Yes, they pressured the quarterback a lot, but it comes down to this. If Ohio State's best is what they put out against Indiana, they'll probably not have a great run here. It might still even be enough to beat Miami. But if Ohio State plays its best and they're healthy, I still think their best punch is the best punch out there.
I love it. The way people are talking, it's almost like Ohio State's like an underdog, or this is a pick'em game. They're favored by 9.5 points. Are they going to cover? I don't know. I'm very confident they're going to win. And what gives me a lot of confidence is Matt Patricia against this Miami offense and a statuesque Carson Beck. People are sleeping on Julian Sayin all of a sudden now. It's like, okay, we'll see what happens. Ohio State clearly has the quarterback advantage in this game. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen both these guys play a lot. Julian Sayin is better than Carson Beck right now. Not that he's going to be better. He's better right now. So the Ohio State has – I just love thinking about Matt Patricia, how much he's going to unleash Arvell Reese. It's going to be a long, long night for Carson Beck. He's going to have him and Ken Dorsey are going to have something in common after this game.
I hate to keep talking about what other people are saying because it really doesn't matter to me personally, and I'm not sure how much it matters to the team, but just in terms of putting out an entertaining product here at Bucknuts, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, Ohio State's going to face a level of talent they haven't seen before. And I'm like, wait a minute. We have the best team. We have the most talent. That's not really an arguable point. If you were going to look, and this is Bucknuts, so we're a tad biased, so I get that. But if you're going to, what are you going to use as the arbiter of talent? Vegas's odds, the NFL? Ohio State has more first-round draft picks playing on the team now than has. I will tell you this. I went and actually researched this because we've talked about it. What makes Ohio State's defense so unbelievably strong, besides Matt Patricia's brain, is their spine. Okay, your spine is your nose guard or your nose tackle, your prominent defensive tackle, depending on how you approach it. And Ohio State really does play with almost a classic nose tackle. Mm-hmm. And then your middle linebackers and your safety. There's only been one time before this in the last 25 years. Let me do my math here. That's correct. Where any team has had a first-round draft pick at nose tackle, linebacker, safety. Ironically,
Miami.
2004, and I went and looked it up. And by the way, that was not their only first-round draft picks. They also had Vernon Carey and I think even another guy in there. But look,
bunch of guys that lost to Ohio State in the 2002 national championship game. Yeah,
Caden McDonald, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs. It was Vince Wilfork, DJ Williams, Jonathan Vilma, Sean Taylor. That gives you a tremendous advantage, in my opinion. Your spine, it's like. This theory comes from baseball. You want to be strong up the middle, right? Catcher, pitcher, shortstop, center fielder, how much you figure in the second baseman there. You want to be strong up the middle. So Ohio State is just extremely strong in the middle. And like you said, they have not faced a defense as good as Ohio State's.
Not even close.
One of the questions in this whole thing is how good is Texas A&M? Because they were used as kind of the arbiter of this. And I think people were thinking – I'm not sure people had pitched ahead of Texas A&M. I saw some Texas A&M Ohio State matchups where they're like, oh, talent-wise, yada. So keep in mind, Miami fans went nuts when their name came up. for the college football playoff. They weren't even locked to get in the ACC. They didn't win the ACC.
They didn't even get to the championship game of that joke. Yeah, that's the thing. They didn't even get to the championship game of that joke of a conference. They lose to Louisville. People gloss over that. Listen,
Antonio Lang had a jumper to win it for him.
You mentioned Caden McDonald. That's one more time than I think any national analyst has mentioned him at all. Leading up, they talk about this guy and this guy and this guy from Miami. Some guys for Ohio State. It's like Ohio State has the best defensive tackle in college football.
I think that's because of last year. Yeah, I think it's because people just don't believe. It's like they're having their hard time getting their mind around the fact that McDonald was a backup last year, even though he really wasn't. If you go back and look at all your key for all those fourth down goal line stands and stuff, look who's underneath.
Yep.
It may be a Georgian who wears a lot of face paint, and he's good. But like you said, he has rocketed up to the. If you mock drafts are worth the click, I get that. They do a decent job in some cases. You get a consensus probably of the top 30 because they're talking to people. Ohio State's going to have 5 guys picked arguably in the top 15. Right. I'm telling you, you guys know this, I'm a Cowboys fan, and they have shifted to basically all draft coverage. They should pay Ohio State for his mount. They've used graphics of Caden McDonald. They used graphics of Sonny Styles. Their whole thing now is, everyone's talking up Sonny Styles, and we're not going to be able to get him. He's going to go before 13. So we have to just sit back also here and give Ohio. It's almost as if Ohio State hasn't gotten credit for being good up until the Indiana game. And I get that. It's sexier there's a lot of sexy parts of this matchup that don't reflect reality, unfortunately. Like Miami was not thought of as a heavyweight 3 weeks ago. What changed?
Yeah, beating.
Someone can tell me. I'll be into it.
A&M got smoked by Texas. They didn't play anybody in the SEC. They had, of all the SEC teams, they had the easiest SEC schedule. They get a lot of hype for beating Notre Dame early in the season. If Notre Dame doesn't miss that extra point, it at least goes into overtime. And who knows what happens? So they beat Notre Dame by 1 point thanks to a missed extra point. Texas A&M, I think, was a paper tiger. Now, I give Miami credit because going into Kyle Field and winning is not easy. But Texas A&M's not good. I want to get to this because this is basically what I was going to say. I want to give Fred on Facebook some credit here. He said, I would rather have people talking and media talking up our opposition than hyping us up. We always play better. When they hype us up, we lay an egg. I mean, I'm telling you, man, since I was when Ohio State is doubted, and they might not necessarily always win, but they pretty much always win. Like, it's like when Ohio State goes in and people are like, they're not that good or whatever. It's a big game. They always show up and usually win. And if not, they will make it really close. And this is not one they're going to make it really close. There's a reason you look at all these quarterfinal games. One of them is almost a pick 'em, Oregon and Texas Tech. Oregon's favored by 2. The other 2 are 6.5 point spreads, with Georgia favored over Ole Miss and Indiana favored over Bama. And then Ohio State's favored by 9.5. If you listen to the outside noise, you would think that this game was the pick 'em. This game was maybe Ohio State favored by 2. I completely agree with Fred on Facebook. I love it when Ohio State's doubted. Now, when you and I are talking, does my blood pressure get going a little bit? Do I get fired up? Yeah, that's how I am. But I'm telling you, man, I actually like it that Ohio State's doubted. They're coming off this loss. They're hungry. By the way, guys, today is Cotton Bowl Media Day. Dan and I are not there, but we have boots on the ground. So Cotton Bowl Media today. Apparently everybody on the team is going to be available. So a little FOMO for me. I wish I was there, but Patrick and Steve and Garrick will have you guys covered with that. So we're getting everybody on the team today. So that'll be cool. I see a motivated team.
They're going to say nothing, by the way.
Yeah, and hope. Yeah, good. You don't. Yeah, at this point, don't say anything like, Miami sucks, or just let everybody think that Miami's going to come in here and beat you, and then it's going to be just like Tennessee last year.
I was on a Miami podcast, and I was asked about the bulletin board material that Jeremiah came out with, and I was like, "Can you repeat it? I don't know what you're talking about." So
you got something for him?
Look, you had to expect the Floridians on the team that played for the South Florida, basically AAU football team, to have some vibes on it. And don't forget, Miami. It hasn't been too long, but since the NIL era has kicked in, they've been recruiting at a much higher level. And so they did come up against us for several guys. Mark Fletcher is going to be a storyline.
He's good.
He's a good player.
Yep.
This I will quote Josh Pate on because I had the same thing. So he's going to run over Ohio State. You're going to line up and run right at him, and that's going to work. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't see that. I know
it won't work. It will not work.
It reminds me of like the Wisconsin games we'd go into and be like, Wisconsin's rushing for 219 yards a game. And I'd be like, that's not going to work. And it's like Melvin Gordon rushed for 3 yards. I do also, like you said, I love the idea of a and I'm not trying to indict Julian here, but I'd rather go after a pocket quarterback than one who can move around. Now, long-term for your team to win a title, I believe you have to make plays from the pocket in college to some extent like you do in the pros. However, for your outlier situation, your Johnny Manziel versus Alabama game where one guy that's one of the reasons I was a little bit nervous about Oklahoma is because they have a great defense and then the quarterback was never the same after his injury, but he was the guy that he could catch lightning in a bottle on one day and beat you by himself. And when you have the more talented team, that's something to fear. But I said it last year, Dave. I said it this year the whole time. There have been, we've been doing this. So in the modern football, let's say since Urban took over, I really only think we had the definitely most talented, best team one time. And we didn't give Zeke the ball enough. And we didn't make the playoff. The last 2 years, I really do think Ohio State has had the best team. I'm talking like if you had the NFL in Vegas create some mental brain trust and they said, actually, who's the best team? I do think Ohio State has the most talent. There was always a Trevor Lawrence, Clemson, or like the Joey B. LSU team hanging out there when we had great teams that we could have beaten for sure. But I'm talking about if you actually said, whose title is it to win? Who's the favorite? I just think Ohio State's got the best team. Will they win it? We're too young. The playoff scenarios, these long playoff runs are kind of unprecedented. Last year's it's a very small sample size, but that's by far the hardest. Even when I say it out loud, what they won last year, I'm like, oh my God, they had to beat Texas. Like when you say the names back to back to back, it sounds like Sega. It sounds like you set up like fantasy, those video games. And like, we had to beat who? Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame. I mean,
Texas,
that's like
in Texas.
But that's like unheard.
You imagine playing Ohio State. You're in the semifinals of the CFP, and you have to play Ohio State in Cincinnati, or you have to play Ohio State in Cleveland. Can we do that? Are you offering? Because I'm in if we want to do that. Oh, heck yeah. I mean, I love how that they act like they couldn't do that. Like last time I checked, they did one in Columbus last year. How's it work for the NFL doing outdoor games in the playoffs? Seems to work pretty well. I know I'm a little biased being a Midwest guy, but I love outdoor football. I love the elements. The Southern boys come up. You watch that Clemson-Penn State game. The Penn State guys are like, yeah, it's freezing cold out here. Like, and the Clemson guys are over there like, it's like, like they're going to freeze to death. It was hilarious.
Did you watch any of the game?
I did.
I had to turn it off. After the 9th straight dropped pass by both teams. That was one of the worst. That was really an indictment of both programs. I'm not kidding you.
Especially Clemson. I mean.
That was completely, and like if this is a slight digression. If you're a Clemson fan, you should have legitimate worries about the program. Legitimate. They look dumbfounded over there. I mean, I can't remember a team expected to be good. I mean, Cade Klubnik, he's like Chuck Knobloch, dude. He's lost it. He's got the yips or something. I cannot get over how bad that game was. I'll say this. A lot of the football looks bad. The break did not do well for a lot of teams. The bowl games I know now are a complete joke because you want to talk about a football nerds. I consider us to be pretty good football nerds. I got to watch those games with a program. Usually I know everybody. There's guys playing there who I never heard of. That's not how it should be. Anyway, that game was terrible. Holy cow.
I think it made Clemson look even worse because we were talking yesterday.
terrible.
we were trying to think of like the top 5 coaches in college football right now, like active coaches. And I think 4 are indisputable in whatever order. 4 are indisputable in my opinion. Ryan Day, Kurt Cignetti, Kirby Smart, and Dan Lanning. Those 4. Then we're trying to say who's 5th. We settled on Marcus Freeman. Kalen DeBoer was in there. We said maybe 10 years ago we'd put Kyle Whittingham in there. We're going to get to Kyle Whittingham in a moment, but not now. Who are some others that we had in there? Dillingham was in the mix. So we were going on, about some of these.
Freeman's the right choice personally, but
what's that? I think Freeman was 5th. Here's what's funny. I said I think Cristobal is like a top 10 coach, and my friends were like, no, he's not. I'm like, I mean, come on. Like, he did good at Oregon, and now he has Miami more relevant than they've been. I'm not saying he's top 5. Cristobal is a good. He sometimes makes dumb decisions during the game, but overall, like, he knows how to build up lines on both lines that we're talking about. Miami's got really good defensive line and offensive line. Again, I think Cristobal is maybe closer to 10, 11, but I still think he's in the mix. But here's what's funny. Dabo has won 2 national championships. He's not even in the consideration in the top 10 of current coaches because that's how much he's fallen off, in my opinion, and the opinion of the guys I was talking to on the show. Like, Dabo's not even in the conversation. It's top 10.
He's allowed the game to pass him by, though. We know this. He didn't even use the transfer portal. If you're just if you want to determine who the best coaches are, here's the easiest way to do it. And this is not reality, so don't adhere to this. But if Ohio State was looking for a coach, who would you go rank them? And Ohio State's at the top of the food chain, so you should be able to come up with who would you want.
That was the criteria.
Yeah. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it.
Ohio State's job is open right now because Ryan Day wins this. Now, he's not going to do this, but job's open right now. Who would you want? Boom, 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 boom. Would you want Freeman or DeBoer? We picked Freeman, but DeBoer was then next. I think Dillingham was next. Dabo wasn't even in consideration at all. It's crazy.
If you were an NFL team and you just in 1993 when free agency kicked in, and you just said, you know what, we're just going to use the draft, you would be out of a job. That doesn't make any sense. So it's. I know college coaches or coaches in general can be very stubborn and ego-driven and dance with who brought us, but it's cost him. He would have to make such a major change philosophy-wise that it would almost seem counterfeit now that he's sold the other way so hard. I think there was a vibe for many years that he was going to be the replacement for Saban.
Yep.
Because he was kind of his Jimbo Fisher at one point, I guess you could say, and he played there. I think it was a walk-on safety or something. But now, if you bring that up, Alabama people are like, no. So Dabo is the kind of guy, though, to me, though, if he left Clemson, he'd go do something for a couple of years. He could rebuild his image, and he would come back as a very, very intriguing candidate because absence makes the heart grow fonder. And when it comes to coaches, there are guys who have done some good. Bobby Petrino got rehired. Everyone's like, nah, it was just a scrape. It's hired. The motorcycle slid. He didn't even no stitches.
Belichick hiring Petrino as his offensive coordinator is just that's peak troll level right there by Belichick.
There's a documentary film on Belichick coming from like Vice or one of those places that won't hold back at some point. That's going to be none too pleasing for the Belichick clan.
Those prediction markets, which I think are very shady, but they're not going anywhere in my opinion. They're just going to keep getting more popular. You can bet on stuff like what's really more like stock market. It's not because the house doesn't get anything. You're like betting against somebody else. So you and I would get on there. You can bet whether or not Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson are still going to be together by the start of the 2026 football season. So I don't know, man. I think he's going to ride that one out. No pun intended. All right, Kyle Whittingham. It's good. It's weird. And now give me like 2 weeks and I'll hate him. I have no doubt about that. I'm secure with that knowledge. But it's weird right now having a head coach at Michigan that's likable. Like I'm used to the head coach at Michigan is just an unlikable dude. And now you have like one of the most likable guys in Kyle Whittingham there. And again, I don't think it's a home run hire. I don't even think it's a triple. But I think considering the circumstances, it was probably about as good as they could do because timing was bad. Ward Manuel, I don't know how he has a job, Dan. I have no idea how he has a job. So if you're a coach taking over, you're going to have you're going to have a new AD eventually. Coaches don't like doing that, having a new AD coming in. you know, he's 66 years old, but I think he's a good stopgap. They needed somebody to clean that program up. I don't think he's a big threat to Ohio State, and I don't think he's going to be there more than 4 years, even though he signed a 5-year contract. But I will say this. I think that's as good as they could have done given the circumstances.
I could not agree more with that statement. Very interesting that Michigan and Penn State, if you were to do the details of their coaching search, you could play like the that goofy cartoon circus music in the background. But if we're being honest, they both ended up with upgrades.
Yeah.
I'm not James Franklin may be a better coach than Matt Campbell in a vacuum, but things had gone sour in Penn State, so he needed to get out of there. He may do well at Virginia Tech. I don't think the ceiling's quite as high.
Right.
Let's just be honest. If this was 10 years ago and the Ohio State job opened up, Kyle Whittingham would be under consideration. I'm not saying he would get it, but 10 years ago, he would have been one of the names that wouldn't have made your stomach turn. That's a fact.
The thing. And we have, I like Spiders always has good takes. He says he disagrees. He thinks Whittingham is a great coach. I will push back a little bit on Spider. I would have agreed with you 10 years ago.
That's why I used the 10-year disclaimer.
Yeah, and listen, he's a young 66. He's not one of these guys that works out occasionally. He works out every day.
No,
he looks like it.
My mom thinks he's cute. Put it that way.
What's that?
He's doing well for 60. Look.
Yeah.
If in 35 years, when I'm 66, I look that good, it would be great.
I'd like to look that good at 48.
I'm kidding, dude. And it's not in 35 years. I'm going to be 6 feet under. I think here's my only question about Whittingham. And I will say this. I do think the fact that let me preface this by saying this. I don't want to he's a really good coach. Yeah. I like the guy. Yeah. This is way better than I thought they'd do. We were talking about Biff Poggi last week. I thought they were going to have to hire an interim guy.
That was never happening.
Bad to get through it.
Because I was told early on they were going to not. This is why when Jed Fish was mentioned, I was like, I've heard they're going to completely. One of the stipulations was nobody with ties to Harbaugh. Fish literally coached at Michigan under Harbaugh. And then with Biff Poggi, it's like the Biff Poggi quote is still hilarious. I played it over and over again last week.
The 5 years.
This has been a malfunctioning organization for the last 5 years. That sounds like somebody who just came in and they're cleaning it up. It's like, dude, you've been there for 3 of those 5 years. There was no way Biff Poggi was getting the job. No way in hell he was getting the job. So, yeah, I think it's probably as good as they could have done. And again, Whittingham at 66 is not – I mean, he doesn't really embrace the portal. He doesn't like the NIL stuff, and you don't have to like that stuff. I don't think Ryan Day likes it, but he embraces it. You have to. And
I think
the game hasn't passed Whittingham by like it has Dabo, but it's like Dabo adjacent. You cannot not like the portal and be a head coach, a successful head. I mean, you can, but
here's the question. Look, Utah is not Michigan, so you're a bigger threat in the portal. You're a bigger threat with NIL, so maybe if he has bigger guns, he'll enjoy it. What needs to be explained to me, what I was going to try and say earlier that I digressed as the coffee kicks in. I think Utah, though, kind of is on its own. It's almost like a Seattle in the NFL where we hear about it and we know about it, but we really don't know the day-to-day of Utah. I couldn't tell you the details of Utah's program like I can when you come a little further east. So I was surprised they got rid of him. So make no mistake about it. He did not resign.
They wanted the defensive coordinator to be the head
wow.
coach. They were scared. They thought they were going to lose their defensive coordinator, and they wanted him to be, I think the initial plan was Whittingham was going to coach one more year. Then they were going to promote the DC, but then they were scared that I believe LSU, one of the schools that just hired a new coach was going to poach their DC and give him a ton of money. So they're like, let's just make him head coach. And they kind of pushed Whittingham out. And he was clear because a lot of people said when he took the Michigan job, well, he said he's retired. No. He was clear when he stepped down at Utah. He's like, I'm stepping down. I'm not retiring. I'm entering myself.
Why is that?
He said transfer portal. Speaking of Whittingham and the transfer portal, he said, I'm entering myself in the transfer portal because he was gently pushed out by the AD there.
That's not gentle. How's that gentle?
Well, because
a lot of for that long and you don't get to decide what you do, and then you got a press conference where you use vague terms. That ain't
a lot of people bought into it, dude. That's why
that's fair. That's
like a
fair.
lot of people bought into it, like most people did. Like you read stories like, oh, okay, it was very, very, very amicable. And then like 2 weeks later, he's Michigan's coach. It's like, okay, yeah, the AD pushed him out, but like they wanted to keep it like as respectful as they possibly could.
Look, Michigan is, like you said, you have to give them credit on a very base level if they really are getting rid of anybody who had anything to do with Jim Harbaugh. Hello, the guy who hired him is still there. I don't know. Did Manuel actually hire him? He might not have.
No, it was actually there was a guy who was an interim AD who went after Harbaugh really hard, and he was just there for like less than a year. He was between Dave Brandon and I forget the guy's name. He was just a businessman, Michigan grad.
I remember that. Was he the Domino's Pizza guy?
No, that was Dave Brandon. He was a
Okay.
disaster. There was a guy that was just there for like interim, like for like less than a year, and he's the one that went out and got Harbaugh. Ward Manuel, dude, he must know where the bodies are buried. Like, how in the world does he still have a job? You can say, well, he hired Dusty May. He also hired Juwan Howard. He's overseeing. I mean, it's like one scandal after another at Michigan. I almost forgot about the Matt Weiss stuff, that creep, and that's a big deal. And they've had so many scandals. It's like that's almost gets like lost in the shuffle there. You had Schembechler's son getting busted, Shemmy Schembechler. It's been one thing after another. Obviously, Connor Stallions and Sharon Moore, rightfully so, get the most attention. But I mean, Matt Weiss, that dude is a creep of creeps. Another guy that Harbaugh brought in. Boy, Harbaugh knew how to pick some sketchy characters. He brought in Sharon. He brought in Matt Weiss. He brought in Connor Stallions. I'm sure I'm leaving guys out, but like, man, just absolute. People call them, like Buckeye fans like to call them scum. Kind of fits, but that's why Whittingham was a good. I don't think they're going to go any better than 8-4 next year. They've got a tough schedule, like really tough. If they go 9-3, that'll be a great coaching job. But they need an adult in the room. Sharon Moore was like, he's 39, but he acts like he's more like, which is still very young. He acted like he was like 16, apparently. They needed an adult in the room, and they got one.
16 with serious issues.
Yeah, I mean, like 16-year-olds make stupid decisions all the time. That's kind of what Sharon was doing.
I've had 16-year-olds. I've had 2 16-year-old boys. None of them have done any kind of that digital malfeasance. Let me tell you something.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad. Yeah. And if they did, I bet they didn't then break into their ex-girlfriend's apartment or parents' house and threaten. Oh, the butter knife thing. Jeez, dude. I mean, the whole thing is just so weird. Seeing Sharon getting like at the arraignment in that little room where it looked like he was wearing a straitjacket. Like he wasn't, but it looked like he was wearing a straitjacket just the way that was an eerie, weird image, man.
It looked like a padded cell.
It totally, and maybe because he was on suicide watch because he's starting to kill himself. Maybe it was a padded wall.
I do think, Dave, you brought up a great point, and that Whittingham, just what they need is what he gives you. Here's the thing. There's a lot of college football coaches that get up there and talk, and you're like, that guy's a freaking car salesman, man. I don't believe a word he says. I will say this about Whittingham. He's a walk the walk, talk the talk type. His program has played, like, let's be honest. Utah gets after it now. That's one thing, like even their defense gets after it. Like Whittingham is a no-nonsense type. So just his personality alone, I think, and his reputation will legitimize the program just because you're replacing something that was really poisonous with a guy who has an established track record of doing things the right way. Now, I say that in air quotes because Lord knows if you investigate any college program, obviously besides Ohio State's, you'll find stuff you don't want to see. But the question to me, I come back to this. If he was still doing this good of a job, I don't know why they'd want him out. That doesn't make any sense to me. So in that respect, I'm questioning it. But like the Penn State one, I'll say this. At some point in time, I thought the place was literally engulfed in flames with the smell of multiple dumpsters. And they, like, if you were to rank hires, both Penn State and Michigan for me would be way up there in terms of what they were faced with and what they ended up with. It's about as good as each one could do. Now, do I fear either one of them? Do I think they're a threat to Ohio State? No. I mean, Campbell's going to recruit Ohio harder than even Franklin did because of his ties and I'm sure he went to Mount Union because everyone else did. That would worry me a little bit, like long term, more
Matt
than
Campbell?
anything else.
Yeah, he played it with Mountain Union. That's the thing. We were doing it yesterday, and we were okay. Ohio State's job is open right now, and you have to pick between Matt Campbell or Kyle Whittingham, and you have to factor in age. Matt Campbell, 100%.
Well, that's not even an arguable point.
Well, one guy was trying to argue. That was and I ended up talking him into it. But I was like, dude, Matt Campbell's 44 years old. He played at Mount Union, coached at Toledo. He knows Ohio bad. And I have no doubt Matt Campbell, his number one, I've been told this for years, his number one destination was Ohio State. But he would have taken the Michigan job. He would have taken Penn State. Notre Dame was the other one. Those are the 4 schools that he would have left for Iowa State because he had so many chances to leave Iowa State. Yeah, Penn State did pretty good there. I don't think he's, again, Grand Slam, probably not. I understand people saying he's James Franklin too. I get that. But
why I say that?
Like they had that.
Why is that?
That relationship just needed to end, in my opinion. Why
is he James Franklin too?
Just doesn't win big games. But at Iowa State, though, that's
a little different.
Yeah, exactly. But there, it's not like, oh, well, he couldn't beat Alabama at Iowa State. People
Dave,
he couldn't beat Iowa at Iowa.
I was sitting next to you when James Franklin, as Vanderbilt coach, addressed the 24/7 guys, and I was, we both came away like kind of closet Vanderbilt fans now, and then that changed. So these guys can be pretty impactful in person.
Through that phone, remember he was getting a call. He's like, he threw it all the way back in the room to one of his assistants. It's like, if it's a recruit, answer it. You remember that?
I do remember that. And he
I remember thinking, James, I can see why this James Franklin guy is like on the rise. Yeah, he was entering his 3rd year at Vanderbilt. That was over the summer, so he was entering his final year at Vanderbilt. I remember coming out saying they didn't even want James Franklin. He's going 3rd person. They didn't want James Franklin at Vanderbilt. They wanted Gus Malzahn, but they got James Franklin. And I was saying, geez. Yeah, when Penn State hired him, I'm like, oh, that's a good hire. And it was
same with Harbaugh. We knew it.
Yeah. I love how Harbaugh was hired. And then Ohio State went and won the national championship like a few days later.
I know it took a pandemic to get Michigan the title. Because people forget this. This is a trivia question they don't want to answer. Name a great coach who's ever taken a pay cut.
Right.
Name one. Just name one.
Yeah.
Go to Nick Saban at any time in his career and be like, you know what, Nick? I'm going to have to cut your salary. He'd be like, really? I'm going to open up 30 car dealerships in the next town I work in because I'm out. Come on, man. You got lucky. I said that there's going to be a book written eventually, if there hasn't been already, about who benefited from the pandemic. Michigan football is going to get its own chapter. And Ward Manuel knew all about it. That I actually know for a fact. Knock on wood, allegedly.
All right, we got to close up shop here. I want to send a message out to any national college football analysts that are watching this show. Like, even though I disagree with you, please keep it going. Please keep talking up Miami and acting like Ohio State's Minnesota or something. Like, please keep doing that. They don't have much talent. Don't look at any mock drafts. Don't pay attention to things like Arvell Reese, top quarterback in the draft, top non-quarterback that will be drafted. Caleb Downs will be the first safety since Jamal Adams will go in the top 10. Caden McDonald, number 1. Defensive tackle in the country. Sonny Styles, first-round pick. Keep acting like that stuff doesn't exist. Carnell Tate, number 1 receiver off the board. And we're not even getting to the 2027 draft where Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin are going to be probably, not necessarily in that order, probably Sayin, then Jeremiah Smith, 1-2 in the draft.
Keep this in mind. Last year we said the same thing. 14 guys drafted, and the 2 highest guys weren't going to get picked, Caleb and Jeremiah. We're going to have all these guys drafted. The top 2 guys aren't even going to get picked.
Thank you.
Guess who would get picked in front of Arvell Reese? Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith.
Yep, and if it wasn't for quarterbacks, he would be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, everybody is saying. But we know quarterbacks. Someone's going to trade up and get – there's some Dante Moore, like, hype too, but I think Mendoza will probably go number 1. And I'm not convinced he's going to be like a great NFL quarterback or anything. I am convinced that the quarterback will go number 1 overall, though, with all the teams that need quarterbacks. All right.
If you look at the mock drafts now, there's a lot of them with Buckeyes going 3, 4, 5.
That's damn right. And just prepare yourself, Bengal fans. Caleb Downs will be on the board, and the Bengals will pass on him to get some combine warrior that it was unproductive in college, but the Bengals think they're smarter than everybody else in the NFL. It's like, no, you're worse.
I'd like to say something
worse.
Yeah, I'd like to say something to all NFL media and people who are picking. Safety is not a valuable position in the NFL. You can get them in the 3rd round, the 4th round. You do not need to pick a safety high in the draft. So let's make sure, Caleb, can get to like 11, 12, 13 if the Cowboys can lose next week, and we will rebuild our defense. I cannot think of anyone I'd rather have more on the Cowboys DA defense than the – and, I don't want to say it, the other part too. I don't think they'll go after Patricia, but that's been said too. Someone go package deal it. But can we just get a couple Buckeyes in Dallas and get this thing fixed?
All right, before Dan gets Matt Patricia a job with the Cowboys, we're going to close up shop here. Thanks to Dan Rubin. Thanks to all of you. We appreciate it. Keep it locked to Bucknuts. Cotton Bowl Media Day is today, and allegedly everybody on Ohio State's team is going to be available, much to the chagrin of the coaches and the SIDs, I'm sure.
Yeah, seriously.
But they have to do it. So
no more questions.
Exactly. It's only 45 minutes, so it's going to be a scramble. But everybody on the team is available, but you get 45 minutes. It's like you get a lot.
There's not enough sports information department personnel to be the Jiminy Cricket on everybody's shoulders or getting interviewed with no more questions. So someone may say something interesting.
That's true, especially the guys that don't typically talk. Yeah, Carson Hinsman talks. He'll say something interesting. You got to always have to have a mic near Carson Hinsman. You have to have a mic near the other one is Phillip Daniels. Something about the O lineman, man. They're fun to talk to. Hinsman's hilarious. The blonde hair.
I know
it's so freaking funny. All right, here we go. We are going to close up shop now, as I've said like 14 different times. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. We appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. I know you're still basking. Go Bucks.